to finish with a winning record, something the Miami Dolphins have not been able to say. Consecutive winning seasons. They have not been able to say that since 2003, yet Brian Flores got the boot with nothing at quarterback. He nearly made the playoffs the last 2 seasons. In the same division, by the way, with Josh Allen, who is spectacular, in case you haven't noticed. In the same division, coaching against Bill Belichick. By the way, you want to know what Brian Flores' record is against Belichick? 4-2. It's 4-2 against Bill Belichick. One of those wins came when Tom Brady was still in Foxborough. Yet he gets fired. Explain that to me. Think about other black coaches. I gave this example recently as well. Think about Jim Caldwell. Okay, Jim Caldwell coached in a Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts. He replaced Tony Dungy and coached in a Super Bowl with the Colts. But you say, yeah, Peyton Manning. Okay, that's fair. All right, Peyton's amazing. Okay, I'll give you that. But he gets hired by the Detroit Lions going to the 2014 season. The Lions go 11-5, make the playoffs, and as a Cowboy fan, I can say they got screwed in that game. They should have beaten the Dallas Cowboys in that playoff game in Arlington, Texas. The following season, disappointing year, 7-9. 2016, this is not to take a shot at Matthew Stafford. The guy came apart in the second half of the season. They still made the playoffs with a 9-7 record. The following season, almost made the playoffs again with a 9-7 record. So, Jim Caldwell, in 4 seasons as the Lions head coach, because he was fired after 2017 for not sure what reason, but sure Detroit, being the well-run organization that they are, not sure they had their reasons. Jim Caldwell won 36 games in 4 seasons. You want to know how many games that Lions coaches have won since then? In the last 4 seasons, 2018 to 2021. Jim Caldwell won 36 games in 4 seasons. Other Lions coaches since, in the 4 years after that, 17. They couldn't even get half of what Jim Caldwell got. Yet Jim Caldwell is the poster child for Rooney Rule interviews. Every hiring cycle, Bears interview Jim Caldwell, or this team interviews Jim Caldwell. And every time I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. He's not getting hired. Why? Come to your own conclusion on that. But the man can coach football. He made the playoffs twice with the Detroit Lions. And the only interviews he's getting is Rooney Rule interviews. Think about Eric Bieniemy. Right, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, Coach Bieniemy deserves some blame after the Chiefs' collapse against the Bengals this past Sunday. I put the majority of the blame on Patrick Mahomes because if he gets the majority of the credit when they win, then he should also get the majority of the credit when they lose because he played bad in that second half and overtime. He did. By his MVP standards, he was bad. Point is, Eric Bieniemy has this is not a rhetorical question. Has he gotten an interview yet for head coach? Has somebody in the comments, please. Has he gotten one? I don't think he has. And people say, well, but Eric Bieniemy doesn't call play, which like Andy Reid says that Eric Bieniemy calls plays. I don't know who to believe. That's irrelevant to this because people say, well, Eric Bieniemy doesn't call the plays. Let's just say that's true because it very well could be true. Doug Peterson didn't call plays in Kansas City under Andy Reid. He got the Eagles job. Matt Nagy didn't call plays in Kansas City as the offensive coordinator. He got the Bears job. Eric Bieniemy doesn't call plays for Andy Reid, we think. But he can't get an interview? Really? So I'm just saying. I don't know if all of the allegations made by Brian Flores are true. No idea. What I will say is I have a ton of respect for him in going after, because look, Coach Flores is 40 years old. He's a young guy, right? He's got wife, kids, and he said himself, I'm kind of putting a lot on the line here. I'm putting my coaching future on the line, and I love to coach. He said in a statement that God gave me an ability to coach football, and clearly that is the case. But he's saying, I'm fighting so that other coaches aren't put in the same position that I am. And to that, hats off to Coach Flores. By the way, think about the Dallas Cowboys for a second. Think about the Cowboys. Their current head coach, Mike McCarthy, who obviously I've ripped on the show. A lot of people have ripped on their shows. You, the fans, have ripped, to fellow Cowboy fans and the non-Cowboys fans in the comment section here, or you called into radio shows. I don't think anybody who roots for the Cowboys, anybody who even doesn't like the Cowboys, can say that Mike McCarthy's done a very good job. You want to know how Mike McCarthy's interview process went in 2020? Jerry Jones invited him to his house. Okay, no problem with that. And apparently they ate nachos and talked ball until like 2 a.m. or whatever it was. And I think Mike McCarthy even spent the night at the Jones mansion. Jerry Jones Jr. reportedly told his dad, "Dad, what are you waiting on? This is our guy." Right? He's Mr. Analytics. He watched every play of the 2019 Dallas Cowboys season. He can coach football. He is our guy. By the way, Jerry Jones only interviewed one candidate other than that. Shocker, shocker, his Rooney Rule interview, Marvin Lewis. Anyways, Mike McCarthy got the job and proceeded to confess that, he didn't really go into analytics with the Cowboys.
You said you analyzed every play or watched every play of the entire 2019 season. What is it that you learned from that experience that you think will benefit you most here?
Well, I need to confess. I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, you do what you got to do, right?
You do what you got to do, huh? You think Marvin Lewis said that in his interview with the Cowboys? I'm not saying Marvin Lewis should have been the head coach of the Cowboys. Not implying that. But do you think the Cowboys were as thorough with Marvin Lewis? Heck, they weren't thorough with the guy they ended up hiring. How about Josh McDaniels, the hire that I cannot really figure out with the Raiders? It's nothing against Josh McDaniels personally. Got nothing against the man. But for the Raiders, I don't get the hire at all for a multitude of reasons that I talked about on Monday's show. You can go back and look at that to see what I said. But Josh McDaniels coached the Denver Broncos in 2010. And he was fired because it got found that he was recording other teams' practices. So he kind of shamefully got fired out of Denver. Brian Flores has a great resume, and Jim Caldwell has a great resume. And Marvin Lewis has a resume of getting the Bengals to the playoffs multiple years with Andy Dalton. But those guys can hardly get interviews. And so to Brian Flores' credit, he's saying, yeah, this isn't going to fly anymore. He even talked about Nate Burleson of CBS asked him, the great, Nate Burleson's was a good NFL player and is an even better broadcaster. He asked Brian Flores how he felt when he saw the text by Belichick, and he basically confirmed, yeah, I'm not the guy. He said, I was humiliated. I was upset. I was angry. You can understand that emotion from a guy who took over a pretty lousy situation in Miami and produced back-to-back winning seasons with a bag of Cheetos at quarterback. He wanted Justin Herbert, according to every report out of Miami. He wanted Justin Herbert with the 5th overall pick. They took Tua. Chargers took Herbert. They could say, well, the Chargers haven't made the playoffs with Herbert. You think it's Herbert's fault? Brandon Staley cost the Chargers a shot at the playoffs, but that's another discussion for another day. All I'm saying is this. The NFL's hiring process is, I would say broken, but that would imply that it's been fixed or been in a good spot. The Rooney Rule, for all its good intentions, it don't work. It don't work. Simple as that. And so the rules got to change. I don't know what you can't make somebody hire someone. Someone ultimately what's got to happen is, in many circles, ownership's got to change. Simple as that. I even read a report that the Giants didn't want to hire Flores because Dable was the most qualified for the job. It's funny how the most qualified for the job, they all kind of look the same, if you know what I mean. But the Giants said, well, he's too emotional, or he's too much of a control freak, or he's too much of a disciplinarian. The best coaches that the Giants have had in the Super Bowl era were emotional control freaks who were disciplinarians. Bill Parcells and Tom Coughlin. So don't give me that excuse. Stop it. Come on, man. It is ridiculous. What is going on? So once again, hats off to Brian Flores. I wish him the absolute best. I hope he gets an opportunity to coach again, because that man can freaking coach football. That has been as clear as day in Miami. Because Tua ain't that dude. Hate to tell y'all Dolphins fans, Tua ain't that dude. Brian Flores, he's got rid of the wrong guy. I'm telling you, man, if that's true about Stephen Ross. By the way, something else. Last thing, and I'll get to the comments. That something else that Brian Flores alleged about Stephen Ross was that after the end of the 2019 season, Mr. Ross began to pressure Mr. Flores. This is according to the suit. Mr. Ross began to pressure Mr. Flores to recruit a prominence quarterback in violation of league tampering rules. Mr. Flores repeatedly refused to comply with these improper directives. Undeterred, in the winter of 2020, Mr. Ross invited Mr. Flores onto a yacht for lunch. Shortly after he arrived, Mr. Ross told Mr. Flores that the prominent quarterback was conveniently arriving at the location. Obviously, Mr. Ross had attempted to set up a purposely impromptu meeting between Flores and the prominent quarterback. Mr. Flores refused the meeting and left the yacht immediately. After the incident, Mr. Flores was treated with disdain and held out as someone who is non-compliant and difficult to work with. By the way, the reports are that the quarterback was Tom Brady, which makes sense. It was the summer. It was the spring of 2020. Prominent quarterback, free agency. Hello, it's Tom Brady. By the way, that's the report you're saying, and it makes sense that would be who it is. So if that's true, I have an even greater amount of respect for Brian Flores, because man could have Tom freaking Brady and said, Mr. Ross, it's against the rules. We can't do this. It's as simple as that. So that's, man, I'm telling you, it is. This could, again, I've used this word multiple times during the show today. This could be earth-shattering for the National Football League. Earth-shattering. And again, I'm not like anti-Roger Goodell because of this. Roger Goodell, the league office is pretty darn diverse. NFL coaching circles aren't exactly that. May I remind you guys, as my final point, the NFL has, in a league of 71% to be accurate, African-American players. They have one African-American head coach, Mike Tomlin, who in November, people were suggesting should go to college at USC and leave the Steelers. That's the issue we got in the NFL. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.